Yeah, after our alien episode, I was commenting to Bryan that I know that Hulu is designed to make your brain mush, but starting this podcast, JT's Mixtape, where I endlessly scroll TikTok looking for videos, has it made me smarter? I don't know. I don't know that I could say that it has.
So that's a good question. I mean,
I'm willing to risk it for y'all.
to bring forth the truth.
Come closer, my child.
Yeah, before we get started, I wanted to say this, and it's funny, like my journey as a content creator has obviously changed, because there was a time where I would have just grabbed my phone and I would have just started talking to the phone, posted a video. But now I just don't like doing that anymore. And I almost went live on Instagram, but then I decided not to, because I was, like I said, we have had a lot of people coming at us and in the attacking the Little Season community, or attacking the Little Season, having that debate about whether we're in Little Season. So, I mean, I'm not saying they're attacking us personally. I'm not offended or scared by that.
No.
But I wanted to say, it's like, what you really see a lot of is the people who post nothing but doom porn all the time. Oh, it's the end. The end is not. Back in the day, those people would have been on a street corner with a sign. They would have been ignored. But now it's like they're big TikTok creators, and they don't like that. It's like they do the doom scrolling. They find every dangerous headline. The end is nigh. Every day is like it's telling you guys this is totally the end this time.
This is the Antichrist. We found him.
And so us in the Little Season community, we're not trying to scare you all the time.
No,
that's not our goal. And I think it's funny because it's like that you see the person, it's like these people would try to project onto us. You're trying to take people's hope away. And it's like, all you're doing is trying to scare people every day. Like, I mean, that's literally what you do. I mean, I'm not saying you're doing it for clicks and money, but I mean, if you were, let's just say people do that. Some people do. Yeah. I just think it's a little bit ironic when you start seeing what other videos these people post. And it's like, so you guys took time out of your day to finally post a rebuttal or debunking of the Little Season. You took 1 minute out of your day where you're not literally trying to scare the crap out of everyone to post that. I'm like, oh gosh, it's so rich with irony. And the thing I really wanted to say to people was that what really helped me understand the Bible more was really, and I bring up that quote from Michael Heiser often, and I'm not sure if he's the only person to ever say this. He's probably not. The Bible was written for us, but not to us. I said, if you really think about it, like obviously you can kind of categorize the books. You got some historical books, obviously, and you got like the books of wisdom. You got like the kind of prophetic books from the prophets. You have the Psalms are different as well. Prophecy, also kind of songs and those kind of books. And then you have straight historical books. But what you have a lot in the New Testament, and let's specifically just focus on the New Testament. What you have is you have the Gospels, which would fall under the historical accounts, right? I think I kind of say that would be like a fly on the wall, right? Because it was not meant, was it meant to be a book? I mean, God obviously intended for it to be written down, but Jesus isn't saying, write this down, guys. Like literally, this is the story of Jesus' life. And obviously the promise that was completed through Christ that was first promised to Abraham. And actually first promised to the serpent and Adam and Eve. So you have a kind of a fly on the wall account of that. Well, you have the rest of the New Testament are like literally letters that are written by the apostles that are addressed to people. And I think the funny part about it, I was just thinking about this. It's like literally we're reading someone else's mail, right? And so you're understanding that the things they're telling them, they're teaching, and they're obviously encouraging, they're rebuking at times. But it's funny to think like that how modern people view those letters. It's like, well, this is obviously written to us. It's like, but are you a crazy person? Obviously, it's not written to us. It's like literally addressed to somebody, right? The
Yeah.
church in Ephesus, the church in Colossus, or the church in Philippi, you know? And then so then you get into the book of Revelation. It's like you're like literally reading these letters that are directed at these very specific people. And
Very
it's only
specific
like
churches.
yeah, and it's only in modern times people are saying like that was written for us. You're like,
Yeah.
but it doesn't say that. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you have to understand that it doesn't say that. So I think to me, it's like that understanding the context, obviously understanding the audience, it does make you recognize a lot more stands out to you, right? And obviously, I think that's part of apologetics is if you want to know more about the Bible, it's like, well, what was going on in that place? You know, kind of like in Ephesus, like there's the Temple of Artemis, there's all kinds of weird stuff going on, and so you kind of see the people that Paul's encountering during that journey there. I don't know. I just think it's funny because it does really feel like that our worst critics they really don't get that at all. And I mean, how could you say the book of Revelation wasn't written to the seven churches? You know, like how? I mean, like literally, it's like you found some old mail. Like it's like 1,000 years old, maybe 2,000 years old if you believe the chronology. The dispensationalists would say, well, obviously we're the Church of Philadelphia. It's like, well, yeah, really? Like, but why do you think that? Like, what? Like, literally, why would you think that?
Oh gosh, I think it's silly that they even think that at all. Like, and I don't know. I don't even understand it because I've tried to understand it for so long when I was at that. It's like they try to. Here's the thing. People don't understand prophecy, and they try to assume they know prophecy, and that's when you think you know prophecy. You go into the reading the book of Revelation, bro. I don't even understand prophecy enough to claim that I would read the book of Revelation and be like, oh, I know what this means. Like, bro, and I deal with prophetic stuff all the time. And so like, I still don't get it. Like, and like, there's so much to understand about God. You got to be humble. And like, when you start thinking, you know, that's exactly when God's like, yeah, you don't know. He pulls the rug out from under you all the time. He uses the foolish things to confound the wise. And it's like, the minute people think, oh, I know that's what this means, like I would never even claim to know what that means. Like I can tell you from historical perspective things that I've learned, but when it comes into prophetic stuff, like bro, I don't claim to know anything like about it because like only the Lord knows, and He reveals it to us in our humility, in our understanding, not in pride. And that's what all these people speak from, and you can see it in their hearts, man. Like when you look at people talking and they're talking with such pride and like it, like, you know, I know this, it's like, bro, that you're missing it. Like Jesus came with love, and it's like, dude, he like, I love it. Like when people come to me, it's kind of hilarious. People always like tell me to cut my hair. They're like, don't you know the Bible verses? It's shameful. It's shameful for a man to have long hair. I'm like, bro, I don't think you understand that context whatsoever. I'm like, first off, what about the Nazarites? Like, bro,
Right.
like,
There had to be some.
Nazarites?
I think that again. I think that there's something about the context that Paul is talking about that they would have known
Yes.
because it is a little strange because I mean again I don't know how reliable like the iconography of like depictions of Jesus are. There's never one that he's got short hair. I mean, I imagine that he had longer hair. I mean, he's like, obviously probably not getting regular haircuts. He like lived like he was kind of a nomad for all his ministry. I mean, he probably wasn't getting haircuts. And then you have, yeah, obviously the story of Samson. I joked, somebody in the comment section was quoting that verse in Corinthians to Bryan saying it's shameful to have long hair. Of course, my hair is, I've had people quote that to me too. And it's like, yeah, Samson got his hair cut. How did that work out for him? Got his eyes plucked out
your
next.
comment when you said that. It was so hilarious. But like, but people don't understand the context of the perspective. Like the reality is, it's like they take the Bible and they try to go, this says this, so it means this, and they like take their own version of perspective of reality. Like it can't mean anything else, bro. You know what it was saying when it said it's shameful for a man to have long hair? I've heard two different scenarios. My personal take is that like back in the day, it wasn't like people just cut their hair if you were like doing whatever. So it was like having long hair is like a homeless guy that has long hair and it's just like matted, and it was like, that's
Right.
shameful if you see some long-haired, homeless, matted person who's not cutting their hair. Like that's shameful. Okay. And so that's what it means by recognizing shamefulness. But that's actually a weirder description related to that verse, because they actually believed there was something to having children connected to having long hair. Have you heard of that description?
No, the other thing I heard was it had something to do with like male temple prostitutes and stuff like that. But
yes, there was that. It was connected to that too. And they also believed that if you had long hair, that you weren't able to reproduce children very easily. That was literally the belief that they had going on at the time. And so it was like shameful for a dude to have long hair because he wasn't producing children. It gets more disturbing when you read the technicalities of that.
Also, what's long?
Yeah, exactly.
What is long? I mean, maybe he was talking about people who have hair down to their butts or something like that. I mean, obviously, like, is this, because to a lot of people, this is not long hair, what my hair is. Brian's hair is pretty long for most people. But like, I haven't cut mine. I'm planning to, so it's going to get longer. So the point is like that, depending on who you ask, like, what's long? Obviously, Paul doesn't give like a thing. And it's like, it seems weird that Paul says that, because I do think there's a greater context, because he's not legalistic. Obviously, he's literally preaching against the legalism things, where it's like, it's the heart that matters. Why does it matter that men have long hair? Again, there's a greater context. But yeah, to go back into what I was saying, that, so a lot of these people who are the kind of the doom prophets are always talking about all the horrible things that are going to happen. I just think it was funny. So I on X, I tweeted out that, so I've seen all these dispensationalists saying that we're in the last days, but I'm like, but according to their own math, does that mean it could be like a couple more thousand years? Because what does that even mean? And it's kind of funny to think that, so if it wasn't the last days in the Bible, when all the prophets are saying it, when all the apostles are saying it, Jesus is saying it. And so if it wasn't then, why would it be now? Like really, so really, what is your best evidence that it is now? I don't think you'll get a good answer.
They're like, bro, because Israel's surrounded by the exact nations and they're all coming against them. And it's like, and the third temple's going to be built. And when Israel becomes a nation again, and when you see the flourishing of the olive branch and blah, 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 and it's like, they have all these narratives that they've spun up that are not true, guys. They're not true. Like, where does it say when Israel becomes a nation again, that generation shall not pass till they see the son? I've heard that. Have you heard that one?
Well, yeah, you know what? That's
not what the Bible says.
I'm actually glad you brought that up, because that's usually what most of the futurists say. They'll say the establishment of 1948 Israel, that is the olive branch generation. Okay, so now just keep that in mind. Okay, so a biblical generation is 40 years. Actually, I just read this in Numbers. This is actually really cool. So when the Israelites go into the land of Canaan, or the spies go in, and they go in to spy out the land, and then they see the sons of Anak, and they see giants, and they don't think they can take it. They see fortified cities. They're scared. Only Joshua and Caleb believe they can take it, because they believe in God's promises. So they go back, they give the bad report, and then the Lord's like, you guys aren't getting in now. You guys are not allowed to get in, because you guys don't believe. And so what God actually tells them, he says, for each day you went out to spy out that land, I'm going to give you a year. So they went 40 days to spy out the land, 40 years in the wilderness. That generation dies out. So none of them over the age of 20 years old from that generation got to go in. So this is really interesting. So a lot of people say that prophecy can be 2- and 3-fold. I don't really believe that anymore. I think that there is a what they call it, a kind of there's shadows of other prophecies. Like, I mean, because it's like there's this kind of like these shades of all of the things that God's going to do. Because it's like there is a kind of a cyclical pattern, but it's not like this means something later. It's specifically to them, right? So what's interesting is that you have in the life of Jesus. So Jesus, he obviously lives 33 years. He gets crucified, gets resurrected. Guess how many days he spends on the earth basically revealing himself that he's resurrected?
3 days. I mean, he rose.
No, 40 days.
40 days. Yeah, definitely.
40 days.
Yeah.
And so most people believe that he gave the Olivet Discourse. That was right around 30 AD. And again, these dates are neither here nor there. 40 years later, they come and destroy Jerusalem. So just think about that. So it's like, isn't that your shadow of it? Because it's like 40 days of the spies, 40 years. Jesus reveals himself for 40 days. 40 years later, that generation is destroyed. So to go back to the modern time, so you have 1948 Israel. Okay, so anybody who is above 20 years old going into Israel would have been that generation. Those people, obviously, what has it been? It's been 77 years. Is that right? Yes, 77 years since then. Those people, that generation has passed away at this point, right? Is any minute now. So you can't even say it. Like, you literally can't say, like, you don't put a number on it. We're talking about actual people. Just like the same time in the Exodus that the people that did not get in, that was 40 years. 40 years and they were all dead, right? So you have way more than 40 years. Now you're talking about 77 years. So how can you even point to that as saying like that's the olive branch generation? Because Jesus said, truly I tell you, this generation, before this generation passes away, all these things will be fulfilled. So, and according to the dispensationalists, we still need a temple. So I know that they say they're going to build one any minute. And they also believe in a 7-year tribulation that's coming. Okay, so how old is that generation going to be by the time all those things take place? Because Jesus said, and this is what they say he meant that generation will see all these things and it will not pass away till all these things take place. It's done. It's done. Like I said, I'm sorry, guys. Like that has been debunked. Consider that debunked right now, because you cannot stretch that out to infinity now, right? So at some point, we believe what it said, and we believe in what the audience it was said to, and we don't trust the history. So we're trying to peel back the layers and try to reveal evidence that the things that Jesus said came true. So the timelines that Jesus gave, I agree. I mean, like I said, I think everything he said was absolutely true. So
this generation will not pass away. And he says, some of you standing here today will not taste death till they see the Son of Man coming on the clouds. Like, none of those people are alive, guys. None of them. So they saw something.
Absolutely. You know what? It's funny that we often quote that verse and people will refer that back to the transfiguration. Now, here's the interesting thing, is that what we often don't quote is the verse right before that, when he says that he's going to come in the glory of his Father with the angels and reward each man. So if you think about it, so people say, oh, that was the transfiguration. Well, he did not come with angels at the transfiguration. He was there with Moses and Elijah. So I'm sorry.
That don't count.
That don't count. That don't count. I mean, so all that being said is that I just wanted to say that because I think that, really think about that. I mean, if you really do want to understand your Bible better, understand who first got the letter and what would they be getting out of it.
And what was the context and what did their perspective be from it? And what were they thinking about it? Like, you got to put yourself in their perspective.
Yeah. So I think that's a good thing. So I say, obviously, first bury yourself in the Word, read it. Don't try to limit your preconceived notions about what the text says. And when it says something, believe it to be true, and then go seek it out. And I think that to understand, like, and if you have parts of the Bible that are confusing, especially the confusing parts, go try to find answers. I mean, there's still things that obviously stump all of us on like what exactly it means. But I think that that's another good thing that Michael Heiser said. Again, I didn't agree with him about a great number of things. But the one thing he says, if it's weird, it's important. I like that. I thought that was, because it's kind of like that. If you don't understand why, like, then it's important to go try to find and understand why, because that's part of the piece you're missing of the puzzle.
totally agree. If it's weird, it's important. That's for sure. Like I live that by that motto for sure. And the other thing I think is hilarious is like all the people that are like, Revelation's coming, guys. Revelation's coming, guys. Like, bro, they live in a state of chaos, and they're bringing about a satanic agenda. Just a heads up, y'all. Like that is what that's what the Satanists want. They want chaos. They want depravity. They want, oh well, it says in the word, things got to get terrible before they get better. Before Jesus shows up, bro, you're literally aligning with the satanic agenda to destroy and bring corruption into this earth. Like, and that's, from my perspective, is a little bit scary, realistically, because it's like you're not standing up for truth. You're not standing up for what is right. You're not stopping the things that are wicked and evil because you're like, well, it's got to get bad somehow. Like, bro, dude, it's like, and people just are like, oh, well, just Jesus, I want all these people to die and Jesus will come and save me. Like, bro, where is your love for other people? Like, that is so wicked. Like, where is your love for all the other people that you're like, Jesus is going to save me and zap me out of here. I just want this world to go to poop. No, you have to have the heart to be like, hey, I want to save this world. I want to save these people. I want to love these people. That's what Jesus' heart was. That's what it means to be like Jesus. And it's like, and having this view that Revelation might have already happened. Okay. Like having this perspective, a lot of it, not everything, but a lot of it, like when you have that understanding, it brings so much more peace in your heart and it brings so much more love for those people around you. And that's literally like, that's why we're like chill. Like, that's why we're not like, like the world is ending. Like, we're just like, yeah, there's a lot of cool, weird stuff and we'll talk about it, but there's like peace with when we talk about it.
Yeah, 100%. I think that, I still see all the doom headlines and I think we try to interpret them in a different way. And I think I'm a little more calm in the way that I read them and say, I know this is what they're saying. Like, what do you think this really means? And it's kind of like that. I know that God's got it all taken care of. And I'm not saying these people don't believe that either, because I know that they would say that, oh, well, God said this is going to happen. He's going to take care of us no matter what. If you believe that, fine. I have no beef with you about that. But I do believe that it does give us a more, more kind of patient attitude about things. And it gives us a level of discernment where we can still point out like that. I know that the people who are looking for the third temple, I know that they're secretly cheering it on. I mean, maybe they're not even secretly cheering it on. They could be like Greg Locke saying, oh, let's blow up the Dome of the Rock and we'll bring that third temple in so we can bring about the coming of Jesus.
Oh, that's
and
so scary.
What he's really talking about is the coming of the Antichrist. And so there was a part of me when I was hoping this was soon and that was going to happen. So like, wouldn't I kind of want that? So now, looking back and saying, no, I don't want them to build a third temple because I think it would be blasphemous. Because obviously if Jesus was the last sacrifice, it would be blasphemous to sacrifice red cows so you can put up another building that is not going to be for God. Yeah, so they're going to start sacrificing again in that temple. It's like, yeah, don't you think that that's kind of profaning like the one true God?
There's a Bible verse that says that.
Yeah, the sacrifice that his son has made for us. And so looking at that, I can say, no, these people that's the synagogue of Satan stuff. This is not good. And you should definitely not be cheering this on. You should not want that, because I know that God doesn't want that. You know how I know that? Because God hasn't written that. God has not said to go do that. And that's the difference is like there's the first temple destroyed by Babylon. The second temple destroyed by the Romans, which is the Daniel prophecies are about, and that's the ones that Jesus said was going to be destroyed. And now, God does not he does not dwell in buildings made by human hands. Now he dwells in us. Yep. Jesus was the cornerstone of the third temple, the actual legitimate biblical third temple, and we are the living stones of that temple. So anything more is not of God. And we should not be cheering that on. And I think that, I don't know, I think we kind of leave it there. It's just that, yeah, like the community we're in right now it's very biblical, despite what some people would say that we do read our Bibles a lot. And so I love being able to point out this stuff of saying, but we also have a level, I would say, of spiritual maturity where we can look at these things and we cannot, I don't want to be the response guy who's always, oh, this guy debunked the little season. Now you have to do another video about that. I don't want to elevate these people because I think some of them, that's what they want. I think that they want me to tag them in videos and make videos about them. I don't need to make videos about them.
We're just speaking truth, bro. That's
Yeah.
all. We're just speaking what the Lord puts on our hearts to share the truth. And as you guys come along with the journey with us, we're going to figure things out, because God reveals things to the people when they're seeking truth and they're not seeking to fit an agenda. We don't have an agenda. We have zero agenda, by the way. Like we could tomorrow, like revelation could happen and we would be like, oh, I guess we were wrong. like you could be like, we could be like, whatever, like, oh, whatever. Like, I guess we totally might've missed that one, but our hearts are in a place of peace regardless. And like, there's no, it's not fear that's not governing us. It's love. And that's what you're supposed to be governed with. And so like, we're going along with the adventure. We're discovering things, learning things, reading through old history, old books, old things that are being swept under the rug. And it's lining up with the reality that maybe a lot of that already happened.
Yes.
And like, it's like so much of it's lining up to the point where we're having to make a website and a book that we're going to be doing stuff like this, laying it out for people so they can be like, whoa, we're like missing it. Like, yeah, we're missing it. A lot of people are missing the fact that this is not how we're supposed to be living and walking in love. Like, we're supposed to be walking in love, totally not like, oh, waiting for Jesus to show up and then everybody dies. It's like so terrible. Such a terrible. Yeah, I believed that for so long too. I believed it for so long. And it's like, God's like been gracious enough to be like, hey, Bryan, that ain't right. Like, something's missing. And it's wrong. Like, I'm going to tell you right now, anybody that listens to the Spirit of the Lord, you can feel it in your heart. Something is off if you have that perspective, but you don't know what. Okay, I'm going to tell you right now, you can feel it. You're like I think remember when we were first talking about it, and we had JT, and I was like, bro, I think revelation happened. And you're like, JT was like, really? He's like you knew in your heart. You're like, something is off. Like, you all know it. It's just like, you got to listen to your heart. And like, it's like, bro, like once you listen, it's like God's peace comes over you, and like so much more, like, I don't know. It's awesome. That's what I think.
I agree. That is funny to take us all the way back to that. I want to say that was summer of 2023. I think maybe late summer, and Bryan brought that up. And I think we had already done like a live stream with Jenny Meyer. And I had said on that thing, like, I almost didn't even realize how much I was saying without really saying. I was like, yeah, I think the Daniel stuff already happened. Like, I just can't say, like, how could that have not happened? But I was kind of still not willing to say that all the Revelation stuff happened. But I knew at that point, that's why I didn't immediately disagree with Bryan, because I was like, think? Because I was like, and I think that's when we started to go back and read some of the scriptures. I was like, but where's Jesus at? And then I was realizing that in Revelation 20, despite what some people say, it does not say he stays on earth to reign during the millennial reign. It never says that even one time. So I was saying like that. So if that's what I assumed, if it's actually not written like that, well, then it's possible that things are different than I thought they were with this new view. And of course, as we continue to research it, I was just like, yeah, we had Vitaly on. Obviously, Vitaly had been doing this research for much longer than us, and he laid it out. And I was like, yeah, I'm pretty convinced now. I was like, that he answered the last few questions I had. And I really do think, and I'll just say this one last thing about it, and we'll get right to the videos. But I think what's really interesting to me is that I feel like that I don't want to be making response videos, and I will from time to time, just because I think that it's worth it. And obviously, if we do live streams, they're kind of got to talk about something. So I know a lot of people in the community are talking about it. But what I really want to do is equipping the saints. Like, so I think that I want you guys, and I know that a lot of you brothers and sisters in Christ, and I have seen it, and I've been really encouraged that when people do make debunking videos, I see some very well versed, knowledgeable Christians saying, "Nuh-uh, how about this?" And then it's all based on scripture and stuff like that. And I'm like, yeah, that's what I want more of, because I want to see y'all debunk their videos, because you guys are so well equipped and ready. Because at this point, you already see the arguments against what we're saying. They're weak. They're easily just destroyed, because a lot of them are just straw manning our position. They don't even know what we believe. And I think that's the one thing people say, like, oh, JT, you should go debate this person. I was like, I would have to teach them what we believe first, And then I would have to debate with them. I was like, I ain't got time for that. Like, if there's a serious person who respects our position, who does not call us satanic or heretical from the jump, and they know what we're saying and they disagree, I would have a conversation with somebody. But I am not going to, it's like, again, it's kind of like that Pharisee attitude where they come up to question you. Like, I'm not playing that game where they're going to try to trap us and argue. And then if you answer a question, they're going to ask 5 more. And then if you answer those 5, they're going to ask 10 more, because they really don't want an answer. They want an excuse.
They want to be right.
They're looking to be right. They don't want the truth.
Yeah.
And I think that's the difference. And I do think that's when you're listening to people do videos and podcasts and documentaries and all the things, when you see them be willing to be moved a little bit, then that's actually kind of a person that you actually maybe want to, I don't know, maybe you should gravitate to that person more than the person who knows everything, can never be wrong. If somebody who's never wrong, it's like, again, they've learned the last thing they'll ever learn. And it's likely that we all got things wrong. If they're never wrong, then they're very wrong. Right? Because again, who here who's learning hasn't realized they've got stuff wrong along the way. So I think that's the thing.
Jesus even says, like, a person comes up to Jesus and says, "Good teacher." And Jesus says, "Why do you call me good? Don't you know only God is good?" Like, and this is a really interesting point, because
good.
In that verse, he's simultaneously saying 2 things. Number 1, he's saying he is God because he called him good, right? And then number 2, he's pointing out that even the best teacher that you see is not good.
Oh, like, that's good.
That's the truth. He's saying the best teacher that you see is not, they're not good. They're off in some capacity. They're either their doctrine's off, like their perspective is off, their righteousness is off. Like, there is something that is not good about them, because only God is good. Only God is good. Only Jesus is good. So you can't look to the people and go, "Oh, well, I side with this person because his doctrine and everything else, blah, 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 he's perfect." No, he's not. He's not good. No man is good. No teacher that you think is perfect is good. I'm not good. Like, okay, like JT is not good. Like, we are just humans trying to serve the Lord as best as we can, and as best as we possibly can with our ability to understand the truth. But we're not God, so we're not good. Like, that's the reality of it.
Yeah, the truth. I think the truth of the matter is that, again, I love that expression. I'm not sure who said it first, but the closer you get with God, the less you are impressed with men.
Yeah.
So don't be that impressed with me. Don't be that impressed with Bryan. Don't be impressed with anybody. And it's not to say our critics, and we're trying to tell you, but like, these are just people like us. And I think that I do think
your righteousness is filthy rags before the Lord.
Right.
Your
Well, I mean,
righteousness
apart from Christ. But I do think that it is interesting to be on, I'm sure from you guys, be on this side of the camera and knowing my own journey. And so when I see other people, and I think that's part of this process, is like that when you make podcasts and you go on other people's podcasts that are bigger than you, and you realize it's just the same thing. Like, you know what I mean? Obviously they've done it longer. They might be more talented in some kind of way than you. They developed an audience more than you. But when you go on other people's podcasts and you're like, this is exactly like mine. Like, so you start to see like that when you see big content creators, whether they have 1 million followers or not, it's like those people are not different than us. So they can be just as wrong. And a lot of times they're even more wrong. So yeah, just knowing that, it's like that I don't care who they are, that you have to be able to hold them accountable as we need to be holding ourselves accountable to what's true. And again, that's why, I hear people compliment that I'm willing to say I don't know, that I'm humble in some kind of way, even though sometimes I maybe got to work on my own humbleness. It's that, but yeah, because I really do feel a responsibility sitting here, and there's times, like I said, and I look back and as I started this talking about these people who are like the doom porn people who are obviously they're really trying to strike fear. Did those people ever apologize for trying to scare people about this certain event that obviously did not manifest into all the tribulation they thought it was. No, they typically do not. And I got to be honest, I definitely put on the spooky music and I did a few videos like that, but I really did believe it. You know, so I'll take this opportunity right now to apologize if I ever scared people by the videos I was making. Then that my goal was not just to scare you, but I mean, I can't, like, obviously there's a way we do videos, or, you know, I guess I was more callous about it. And I actually did believe, and I still kind of do believe this. We can say stuff now that's scary. And if you do start to feel a little fear, well, maybe that's fear that you need to go to God to get removed. You know, like we're not as scared about these things because I think that, you know, perfect love casts out all fear. Obviously, we know we're in Christ, we're taken care of. He's the Prince of Peace, that kind of a thing. But if you're not right with God, and if you're not right with God right now listening in this, you should be afraid, right? Because it's like, it would be a terrible thing to go face to face with the living God when you know you could do better. Like, you know, you need to get right with God. So I think that's an important message. But at the same time, you don't need to call everyone the Antichrist. You don't need to say everyone's the false prophet. You don't need to talk about World War III all the time. I mean, talk about the mark of the beast every day. You don't have to do that. It's like, it really does feel like that. I grew up in that generation that was pushing the Left Behind series so much, right? Like it's like, that has trained, I think, a generation to really view the book of Revelation in an incorrect lens. And so it's kind of like, oh, well, I got right because I got scared of potentially having to get the mark of the beast or go to the guillotine. So therefore, I'm going to make everyone afraid. And I mean, like, the crazy thing about it is, again, like the whole Left Behind, again, like you read the letters to the 7 churches, Jesus never once tells anyone, don't be left behind. You know, he, like, it's funny because isn't it funny, like, is it in Luke where Jesus tells them one will be taken, one will be left? And they're like, Lord, where's the person going to be taken? And he's like,
where the vultures gather, their bodies will lie. That's where they're taken to death, bro. Not taken up into the clouds. You're taken to dead.
Isn't that crazy? That is what we're taught about. This is why you don't get your eschatology from Nicolas Cage in those movies. Because, like, literally it's the opposite, right? Because it's the person who's not taken is the person wwho lives. It's the person who's taken. He's literally taken to be killed and eaten by birds. I mean, how crazy is that? And like, so I do think like our whole generation has a very skewed view of it. And it's like, you can see the people who that really influence. And I think that I was influenced by that, but obviously in only the worst ways of like, ooh, like this disappearing that like one day you're going to wake up and like the person next to you is going to be gone. And you're going to be left to face the Antichrist without all the Christians. Like, what kind of a skewed view is that? It's like, it's such a screwed up, non-biblical garbage thing where it's like, that like literally God is going to take all the Christians out of here. And it's going to be left with the people who, I guess, become Christians during the tribulation, because obviously if they were Christians, they would have been taken. And so you have to learn to be a Christian with no mature spirit. There's not one spiritually mature Christian left in the world. How, you know, like, does that sound biblical at all? That sounds stupid. It doesn't sound like God's character. It's like God is obviously during the Great Tribulation, which read Revelation 1:9. John says, I'm your brother in the tribulation. In the tribulation.
Like now.
And it's like, so it makes sense that he would have left the real ones there who could handle it. And obviously the ones who had to be refined by fire to get right with God before it happened. The idea that he just left the baby Christians to get slaughtered by the Antichrist, it's like, that is, again, that comes from Nicolas Cage movies, not from the Bible.
Was Nicolas Cage at Left Behind? He was?
They had obviously there's been several reiterations of that. I think that there was a really cheesy one from like the late 70s that I watched when I was in middle school, and it was like the cringiest thing you've ever seen. And then there was the remakes with Kirk Cameron, right? So then they did that series. Yeah. And then they most recently did one with like I don't even know if it had a big budget, but again, yeah, it had Nicolas Cage was starring in it. But I mean, don't you just think like don't you really think about that? Like obviously Bryan is, I'm sure he understands this, is that if that was the truth, would they ever let that be on a Hollywood big screen?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. They're not going to tell you that. They'll mock you if they tell you any kind of truth.
Right. Well, I mean, it is funny to think about that. That some guy we saw the other day was calling the little season a psyop. But it's like, but you believe all the same things that guys like Pastor John. Yeah, you think about like Greg Locke is the one who believes that too when he's talking about the third temple. And so you've got the same eschatology as Nicolas Cage. You're like, okay, but we're doing the psyop, like, right? It is crazy to me. And, I'll bring this one last thing up and then maybe we can get to some videos and maybe we can I don't even know what we'll just do with this.
It's a mixtape, bro. Some days we just talk about stuff. Hey, why not?
No, but the one interesting thing is I was talking to Ricardo today and I said, what's interesting is like the modern American Christian church believes they have the overwhelming majority of the eschatology that's ever been by the Christians.
And they think they got to figure it out.
Well, but it's interesting. This part actually really stuck with me. I was thinking back to when I did a podcast with Matt from Postmodern Theology, and what he was talking about was that historically the church has had an amil position, where like we're in the millennial reign. I said, what's interesting about that is so you go back to some early church fathers, and they had writings of like being in the millennial reign. Now, what the amil position is spoken about today would be that they viewed the millennial kingdom as a spiritual kingdom, the kingdom of heaven, right? Which I would actually believe. But they didn't view the 1,000 years as literal. Now, I'm not sure about that, but that's what people say. So like, obviously like the Catholic Church believes in the amil position. Again, we have lots of disagreements with them, but like the Christian Orthodox Church believes in the amil position. But I was saying like, what's interesting? So like futurism and preterism are kind of the newest like eschatologies, and they're brought about like the 1800s, supposedly by Jesuits. Now, here's the interesting part about it. So just think about it. So if historically the church had an amil position, and it still does, then the pre-mill position is actually not the dominant position as the modern church thinks it is. And also, if we are post-millennial reign, there was a time when the amil position was actually right? But the only difference is if Satan was loosed in a certain period of time and the church continued to teach an amil position, they should have shifted to a post-mill, right? But again, if Satan is loosed or unbound spiritually, just as the kingdom of heaven was spiritual, then you might miss it. Like you might not realize it, but you can see the effects of it. This world is, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I wonder how many people recognized when Satan was loosed, that like how many people were operating in the spirit that were like, oh my gosh.
There's a shift. Yeah, like there's a shift.
Like I wonder how many people felt it, and they were just like when they put up the Statue of Liberty, like how many people were still like, oh shoot, that's Apollo. Like they're like knowing it in the spirit, and like that's Satan's been loosed. He's officially loosed. Like they're like realizing it, like not knowing what was going to go down.
I was, I was really thinking about it, like in those Lord of the Rings movies, where it's like I know that in the movies they kind of say there's a shadow, there's a whisper from this area. It's like it's like that. Like you have like Gandalf and the elves. They all know something evil is happening, but then they're saying like there's rumors of this.
That's totally how it was.
I know. I was thinking about that. It's like, that sounds way more realistic because, again, Satan is a spirit, right? I mean, I believe he can manifest physically, but like in general, his natural form is a spirit. So he's not being viewed all the time. So when he was loose, you wouldn't know, but you might feel it. It's kind of like the wind. You feel the effects of the wind, but you can't see it. So there's a shift where it's like, oh wow, like the hearts of men are waxing cold. Like what is going on? Like I can just see, I can see it, I can feel it, but I can't put my finger on it. And then people are saying like, I think that this just happened. it almost does make sense in these movies that they reveal that kind of stuff. Even like the Harry Potter movies where like Voldemort's back. We don't even speak his name, right?
Yeah.
But he's back. He's like, how could he be back? I don't know. But somehow he's
there's
back. It's like
there's a statue of him right over there, though.
right.
There's a big statue of him. I don't know how he's back.
with a chain broken on his ankle.
Dude, I think it's hilarious. Dude, it's like I would love to take somebody from like 1200 and like put them in today's world today and just be like, what do you think's going on here? Like they would just be, I feel like they would be like, Satan is loose. Satan is like, they would be like, I feel like they would just see what's going on and be like, oh my gosh, like, and like have such a clearer perspective than we have today. Because it's just like, I don't know. I just feel like we're so deluded from all of our the lies and the propaganda and the lying visions that have permeated onto society, that have manipulated our perspective because they've been programmed. Grammar, okay? Grammar is from the word grimoire. So pro means for grammar. Programmer means for witchcraft. Grimoire means the old books of witchcraft. Okay, it means witchcraft. That's why you went to grammar school. Kids back in the day, they went to grammar school. Your grandparents did. That's witchcraft school, guys. Like that's what this all stems from. So, anyways, it just like permeated into our culture to the point where now it just seems natural. But I think anybody from back in the day, if you brought them here and just even seeing what we call the things and the titles of all the stuff, they would just be like, oh, television. Like they'd be like, oh, like they'd be like,
that makes your brain mush.
Yeah. They'd be like, what is the apple with the bite taken out of it? What is that?
No, 100%. I do think that. Yeah, I do think that. Yeah, maybe that was like something that, like, again, like the little season, the way it's written in the Bible, it's going to deceive people. So, like, doesn't that make way more sense, right? That people were in the millennial reign and they didn't even quite know it. Some people did, obviously, and some people didn't. And so when the little season started, it didn't go off with a mud flood. It kind of went out with a whisper. And then you just started to have like then the things start happening, all the things. And it does feel like that maybe in the same way that we have shifts like in the days that we're living in, like 9/11 and like 2020, where it's like everything seems as it was. And then one day it's just changed a little bit. So like, what if that's how like literally like the 1800s was? Or like starting in like 1776, where you have revolutions, and then you have civil wars, then you have great fires, you have destruction, you have all the things are like, it's not every day, but it's like there's a lot happening. It's like the world just completely shifted before people even recognized what had really taken place spiritually. Which obviously that's what caused the men to do the things they did, or maybe like the elites who run this place, that they knew the spiritual shift. It's like, it's almost kind of in the way that you have like the Lester Crowleys, the Blavatskys, the Alice Baileys, and they're talking about the new age, the age to come. And so they know that there's something happening. They know that they're on the precipice of something.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And then, but the normies don't know that. I think that, again, like that even God has the Mazzaroth, right? The Mazzaroth turns and it's telling a story. And so the enemy knows that story, and they know when it's their time too. And so he's telling his people that, yes, this is about, like, the planets are aligned, the stars are aligning. This is all coming. When this happens, this will start to happen. And this is when I'm going to need you to go forth, destroy those cities, destroy those buildings, throw people in the nut house, take their kids from them. We're going to teach them a false view of history. It's like all of it's happening now. But it didn't start like that. It literally started where some people still believe they're in the millennial reign, and some people never knew because they were not believers anyways. Because again, there's again, people have a twisted view of what the millennial reign was like, because the Bible talks about Jesus ruling with a rod of iron. He's going to be up in heaven with his enemies being made a footstool. So again, there's enemies during the millennial reign, right? And so there's also non-believers. So then you have all the stuff that's happened since, and I'm like, you know what? I think I'm starting to kind of like flesh out my mind. Like that makes a lot of sense because, again, if the modern perception of the American church says, "Oh well, Jesus is going to be ruling from Jerusalem, the actual Jerusalem that we're all told about on the TV. That's where he's going to be, and then the saints are going to be there too."
Where
How would the devil deceive people in that? Because it would almost be like that God says this needs to happen, but he'd almost be working against his own prophecy by being there and his saints being there, because they would obviously, I think they would tell us like, no, this is of the devil, right? But you can't see the devil and you can't see Jesus. You can't see the saints, right? Like, so, you know what I'm saying? Because like in people's mind, do they really believe the devil was going to show up physically to deceive everyone? That's really not his style, right? Like he does it
it's
behind
deception.
behind the scenes.
Yeah, it's deception, you know, and so everybody's waiting for the deception of the devil. You know, I saw a preview of some movie that was literally the narrative that everybody thinks is going to happen, which my perspective has shifted, is that aliens show up and nobody knows what they look like. And then they actually, finally, one of the aliens reveals himself and he looks like Satan. He's just like got horns and he's red and he's got wings. And like, this is the alien, but everybody's already like loving him and he's like giving them a vaccine. And like, dude, I don't know what the movie was. Yeah, bro, I saw some preview of a movie and I was just like, what is this? Like, and bro,
Man.
I was like, that's kind of like, it's kind of what we think is going to happen a lot of ways, but like, there's so much more now, you know, I'm realizing, and it's very fascinating, like seeing all of this sort of play out in front of our faces. But like, I don't know, it's just crazy. You know, where's the prophecy though that's happening? This is the thing that I also wonder about. Where are the prophecies that have continued? Like, where was the October and the day number 7? I'm not going to say it because, you know, where was the prophecy about that atrocity of the Hebrew people? Where's the prophecy about this atrocity of these special people? You know, like where's the you know, the mustache man's prophecy?
Maybe it's in the Talmud.
Maybe it's in there. I think we need to start reading the occultic books.
Yeah.
Like,
well,
like, where's their hidden prophecies?
I think 6 million's in those books too.
Yeah, well, maybe that's just where it is, guys. I guess we got to start converting to the Satanist religion. I mean,
no, let's not do that. You know, what is funny though, and I had to say this the other day, is that so when Bryan and I made Ancient Angels, I mean, I was fully on board with like the pre-trib rapture stuff, like, you know, I mean, or not pre-trib, I was never with that, but I was like the post-trib. So I did believe that like the coming deception, which is interesting because I haven't changed a lot other than saying that there is tribulation coming potentially, but not like the Great Tribulation, something different. But in Ancient Angels, we were saying like, or I specifically was saying like that isn't interesting that they're trying to write aliens back into our history when is it prepping for aliens appearing? And so if we believe they were angels and giants in our past, what if the aliens, which are actually angels, are going to come back? And I know I said specifically in that documentary that I said, what if the devil did show up in his glorified looking, beautiful, angelic form, you know, and he showed up and he said, I'm from heaven. This is what you got to do. You got to listen to me. Like God sent me. I'm the angel of the Lord. I came to tell you guys what's going to come. And I thought, wow, like you would have to really be rooted in God's word. You'd have to be really strong in your faith to say, no, that's not of God. You know, Paul says that if an angel comes and preaches a different gospel, let him be accursed. So you'd have to be willing to say that. But what I didn't actually consider was if we're past the return of Christ, right? We're past the return of Christ and his angels. What if, like, you know, because again, if you're looking for the third temple, like, okay, so this stuff can't happen until these other prophecies are fulfilled, right? So what if literally like floating Jerusalem showed up and angels came down from it? You know, like when what I've thought with my old eyes, what I've thought, dang, what if these are like the fallen angels? When they appear, they seem really nice. They seem actually really good, and they still seem like, but they're saying something different than I believed before. I mean, actually really think about that.
Could be total deception.
Well, like, what if it was really God's angel showed up and said, Jesus already came back? And the modern church would say, no, he didn't. You guys must be lying. You know what I'm saying? It's like, how much of a plot twist is that I was expecting this, but I was because like, obviously he's not coming back like that because we need the third temple. We need the Antichrist. We need the mark of the beast. We need all those things. So if they show up first without all those things, maybe that's why people would say, let's surround them. Let's destroy them. Like these must be the fallen angels.
Surround the camp of the saints.
What if it's like that? You know what I'm saying? Like,
I thought it was like this camp of the saints. I thought the surrounding of the camp of the saints is our hearts, like us individuals, and it just starts surrounding all the Christians and killing them. But it totally, like, what if like God's saints come down and everybody's like, it's alien attack, kill them, like shoot nukes at them, like.
No,
bro, that would be nuts.
I'm still open to your interpretation too, is that eventually like there's like the God's remnant is kind of like shoved aside, where like now they're getting isolated from society, and there literally is this is God's, again, if they were God's holy temple as the believers, then maybe it is just trying to destroy God's temple, the body of Christ here. But that is another idea. I do think that. Yeah, that's wild. I think that I could really see that, and I could see how people would be deceived because they know this other stuff has not. They know that Jesus has not come back yet. So even if an angel told them he had, even if one of the saints came up, unless it was the Apostle John being about 2,000 years old, it's like, oh yeah, by the way, maybe that'll be the deception. Be this guy who's like 2,000 years old, but it'll be the devil pretending to be the Apostle John. And saying it's all about the end times is about to start.
It's about to go down. I've been waiting 2,000 years. I've been waiting. It's like, bro, oh my gosh, bro. And now we've gone from aliens or demons to now aliens could be this camp of the saints. Oh no, like,
well, you know
what is it?
You know what's? I know I brought this up when we did the podcast with Vitaly. If you actually read the dimensions of New Jerusalem in the Bible, it's much bigger than a normal spaceship. It's like it would not fit like on whatever's called Israel now. It is like a kind of a thing where it's like that what's shown in like those Star Trek movies about the Borg, and you have this giant cube that's literally like the size of a planet, you know, if you believe in that sort of thing. It's so big. It doesn't even look like it fits on the earth. I could actually kind of see something where it's like that thing could be revealed at some point. Maybe it is cloaked, and we can't see it. What if that's what they were hitting when we think they're hitting the firmament? They're hitting like New Jerusalem, but you can't see it, and you literally just see this thing shatter against it. I don't know. I mean, obviously these
shot at it.
You know what I'm saying? Like they were shooting rockets at it, and that's what. So it's like. That's an interesting idea. Like, what if they were not trying to go to space? They were trying to shoot this invisible city.
Oh man, so like next level craziness. I still want to go to Antarctica, and I want to go I want to go to the North Pole. I don't want to go to the South Pole. I want to go to the North Pole, like, because supposedly it's just water there. Supposedly.
Makes no sense. It makes no sense that they
check that out.
Actually, I saw an article somebody sent me about that. There was like Canadian troops were like doing some kind of they were doing some kind of exercises around there, like they're preparing for something. It's really weird. It's really suspicious.
Very suspicious indeed. I don't even know. I'd love to go check it out though. That would be epic.
Yeah, one day we'll have to maybe that'll be the end of our documentary when we go there.
The end of us.
Maybe I was just thinking that maybe we should try to work on most of it so we can leave part of it and have like a we can have one of those death switches.
Yeah.
If we don't come back, release this.
Yeah. Bro, what if we get there and it's like an invisible wall and then it's like, boom, welcome to the camp of the saints. like that'd be so epic.
I mean, I do think that, again, like now we're getting into crazy territory, but I do think in the Marvel movies, like Wakanda, that is really interesting, right? Like the whole thing with Wakanda is like there's this in the middle of Africa, and like people do not know this city exists, and it literally is covered by this force field dome. I think it's really kind of interesting. It's like, is that telling? And it's got like this advanced technology there that they are superior. They have this ability, like they even have like through, I think, some kind of plant, I guess it's vibranium. They get this thing, like they get special powers. It's like a Marvel spin on maybe something that would be like the Holy City or something like that. Maybe.
That's interesting. It's really interesting. So much interesting stuff that we just don't know. That's why we like explore this, though, you know, trying to figure out the truth.
Yeah, I would rather talk about this than who do you think the Antichrist is yet?
Is it Elon Musk?
Well, I was sure it was Joe Biden, but now it's got to be Trump because he's back in office. But didn't you think it was a Barack Obama before that? Yeah, but I mean, it was a pretty good guess, right?
Named Barack Obama, his name. I saw Satan come like lightning from heaven, and Barack Obama means lightning from the heavens. I'm just saying.
How come nobody ever thinks Bibi Netanyahu is the Antichrist?
I don't know. But I definitely would think that.
He seems like a prime candidate, doesn't he? I mean, if there was one. I mean, the funny thing about it is that when people say that Trump is the Antichrist, it's like, well, he claims to be a Christian. And again, you can say that he says he's not, or you can post that clip where he says, I'm not a Christian. He's claimed to be a Christian. What did he say? Claimed to be Presbyterian. So by his mouth, he could be lying, but by his own mouth, he does not deny Jesus. You know who does? Bibi Netanyahu.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
which is literally the biblical definition of the spirit of Antichrist is denying that God sent Jesus. Right? So one guy is, whether you believe him or not, is saying that he did, and then one guy is saying he didn't. And he's saying much worse things when he's not on camera.
He's doing much worse things. Like,
yeah, very much so.
But
well, anyways, guys, we're gonna wrap it up there, and I don't even know if I'm gonna call this JT's mixtape. Maybe this can just be something else. Maybe because I actually have a lot of good videos. Oh yeah, by the way, guys, this was supposed to be JT's mixtape, but now it's just Bryan and Joey speculating wildly about all the things and rebutting. Obviously, I don't know, content creators who push fear porn and stuff like that. So this was kind of just off the cuff.
It's kind of a mixtape. I mean, it's a mixtape. Like it's like
I don't know. I feel like we had a very specific theme. That's why I don't want to call it a mixtape because it's kind of because I actually do think I'm actually glad we did this because I think this is just it felt like we had a lot to say.
Clear the waters. This is clear the waters.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But anyways, guys, we really appreciate you guys hanging out with us. Obviously, check out Bryan's channel, Ancient Angels. Look out for the next episode. Lots of good stuff coming from Bryan's channel these days. You want to tell them about that, Bryan?
Oh yeah, there's more craziness. Demon Racers at YouTube and the Ancient Angels podcast, and it'll be on Spotify and other platforms here soon. And we're breaking down all of the historical context for where the Nephilim have gone, because a lot of people don't know about it, but Nephilim are still around, but not in the way that you think. Not in the way they think. There is some potential hidden stuff, but I'm breaking down the genetics and all the other stuff that are pretty, I think it's pretty mind blowing. Trying to convince JT, it's entertaining. He's not fully convinced a lot of my theories, but
I remain skeptical. Like you guys know, I'm sure you guys know by now. I'm a skeptic for the most part, like about everything. And I think that's what's led me to down some rabbit holes that people wouldn't go down, because I don't hardly believe anything except for God's word at this point. So now I'm like, everything I hear, I'm like, I'm open to lots of things. I need to be convinced though about some things.
But it's entertaining. Watch me convince JT at Ancient Angels podcast. Watch me convince JT of the Nephilim historical thing. Come and join the fun.
It very much is that. Well, anyways, guys, really appreciate hanging out with us. Love y'all. God bless.
Later.
Come closer, my child.